Hello and welcome to another manga spotlight. Today's series is The Death-Defying Princess Creates a Yuri Harem to Survive. And this is a manga series by Koji Moromi, Akashiro Aoi, Murata Shinya, and Yanai Nobuhiko. Probably completely butchered those. Nobuhiko is the artist, and the other three are the writers. And this is a fantasy series, not an isekai. And as far as I know, it is also not based off of a web novel or a light novel. This is an original manga series. And the basic gist of this is that there is this princess who is a terrible person and finds herself at the guillotine. And after she gets her head chopped off, she winds up a year before her execution. And she's trying to right her wrong so that she can prevent herself from being executed. However, no matter what she does, she keeps finding herself being executed. And that's when she realized that her problem is with other women that she has wronged. And so she is going to try to prevent her death by romancing all the women that she's wronged and basically creating a Yuri Harem, which is kind of hard for her to do because she is not a lesbian. So yeah, she's basically, this isn't like one of those isekai where you have a guy gets gender bent into a woman, and so he's completely fine romancing women. No, this girl is straight, and she's basically having to try to force herself into lesbian romances so that she can prevent her death. So the premise here, Marie, a domineering and selfish princess, faced her end under the guillotine's blade after her subjects had enough of her. But instead of staying dead, Marie finds herself back a year in the past. Though no matter what she does, she can never escape the fate that awaits her in a year. Eventually, after Marie learns that the only way to escape her own execution is to conquer a large swath of romantically troubled women, she decides to use her own royal charisma to build a Yuri Harem. A survival Yuri fantasy about a princess who defies death is about to begin. So we start off this series immediately with the princess Marie at the guillotine. And she's just like, why did this happen to me? I'm the second princess. And they tell her why. Like, for all her personal interests and desires, she has leveraged the kingdom's wealth, disturbed the morals of the palace, and brought ruin to the honorable name of the royal family. Therefore, she's being stripped of her position as princess, and she's going to be immediately executed. And everybody is there cheering her on because they absolutely despise her because she's terrible. She's a terrible person. And even the person who's about to execute her says, why don't you refer to your own memories and ask yourself, why do you think you're being executed? And then she thinks back and she realizes that she basically bought all the pretty men within the capital with her money and status. She hosted banquets of debauchery. The kind of thing Caligula. She kind of did stuff like that. She sent all the annoying officials and nagging priests to the gallows on a daily basis. She stomped on the faces of the poor and the beggars. And then she's like thinking about all this and she's like, I don't have the slightest clue of what I've done. So even in her mind, she's like, no, I was completely fine. Like, I didn't do anything wrong. I'm innocent. Even though she knows she's done all these things, she doesn't see any of those things that she's done as evil. But she wakes up, realizes that she's like a year in the past, and she thinks that it was just all a dream. And she thinks that people are just, can envy her and they want to see her dead. But she doesn't care. Screw them. This was all a dream. And then a year passes and she's back at the guillotine again. She's like, wait a second. What's going on? Like, this wasn't a dream the entire time? Guillotine comes down. She wakes up again. And once again, her maid's there and says, hey, you fell asleep. And she asks, what year is it? Like, what's the date? She realizes it's a year in the past. And so she's realizing that, okay, this isn't a dream. I'm constantly finding myself in the guillotine. And as soon as my head gets chopped off, I'm finding myself in the past. And I'm going to keep facing the guillotine unless I change things. And so she decides to kind of be a better person. She decides to listen to all the letters that the citizens are sending to her and try to be a princess that the people will love. And a year passes. And once again, she finds herself back on the guillotine. And she's wondering, what the hell did I do? Like, I read all the complaints. I strived to be a princess that the people loved. And I still found myself killed. So she wakes up again. She's like, all right, I'm going to go even harder on this. I'm going to dismiss all my servants. You're all free. You can all go back to your family immediately. Guillotine. Okay, I'm going to give all my money to the poor people. And I'll basically be someone that the poor love. Guillotine. Okay, none of that works. I'm going to take all the money that I can and I'm going to hoof it. I'm going to just run away from the kingdom. I am going to escape and go into hiding. There's no way they're going to be able to find me. Guillotine. And she's like, okay, nothing I do changes. I try to give the people what they want. I get guillotined. I try to free everyone that I've been kept enslaved. I try to give all my money to the poor. Guillotine. Nothing I'm doing works. Even when I try to run away, guillotine. There's got to be something. So she decides to go to this woman who is a psychic. And she's basically kind of like a witch. And she has a cabin out in the middle of the woods. And the princess is like, all right, I'm going to go speak to her. I'm going to see what I can do to fix my situation. To change my path in life. So she talks to this sorceress. And the sorceress basically explains, to set yourself free from the absurdity happening to you at the moment. That's what you came here for, right? The problem with you is that you're entangled by karma. Your life is entwined in countless ways, entangled by the karma of the women that you have troubled. And to break free from this sealed fate, you have to untangle all of them. And she even comes up to the princess. She's like, think, should it be someone who wishes for your death? And the princess thinks, okay, who could be all the women that would wish for my death? And then she finds herself at the guillotine. And she's staring at the crowd. And even though she has done everything right by the crowd is actually like kind of like on her side now. But she's still facing the guillotine. And in the crowd, she sees one person smiling. And that person is her maid, Emile. And she's like, okay, so Emile is the one now that I have to fix. And so she wakes up a year in the past. And she thinks about, okay, what's wrong with Emile? What did I do to screw her over? And she basically looks at Emile's history. She was born to a poor family. She was diligent in her studies. She obtained the position of royal secretary through her own ability. She's basically a prodigy. She had a lover that was a knight that the princess cuckolded. The princess didn't sleep with him, though. She basically just slaps his cheek with a wad of cash. And basically, he came begging to become a slave himself. But again, it doesn't matter to Emile. Like, her lover got taken away from her because of the princess. So she's like, okay, I got to get Emile to fall for me. I got to get her to love me so that she won't wish for my death on the guillotine. So she starts romancing Emile. She basically starts flirting with her. She starts being kind to her. She starts supporting her. Anytime anybody ridicules her, she helps her. We see moments like where Emile's like sleeping at her desk and the princess comes and gives her a blanket. The princess helps her carry her books. The princess celebrates her birthday. Basically, she wines and dines Emile. And eventually Emile's like, Your Highness, like, I want to apologize. I was mistaken about you. For the longest time, I thought all you cared about was sex and money. That you were selfish scum who couldn't understand the heart of the people. And it's funny because as she's saying this, the princess in her head is like, this bitch, how dare she say this to me? But she doesn't say it out loud. And Emile's like, I beg your forgiveness. I've always been cruel I was about to do something cruel to you. And I don't think I can do that anymore. So at the bottom of your heart, please forgive me. And would you purify my body as well? Basically, she's offering herself up to the princess. And the princess is like, oh man, like I'm super duper into dudes. I don't care for women in that way, but I have to do this. Otherwise, I'm going to die. So she starts kissing Emile. And then eventually we get a Yuri scene where the two of them have sex. And like, okay, I did it, but this should avoid my execution. And then she finds herself back at the guillotine again. She's like, why? What's going on? Like, I did everything right. I had the people love me. I gave them all the money and stuff like that. Like, the people care about me now. Emile loves me now. Like, we even see Emile and she's, saying, Your Highness, unhand me. If you're going to kill her, then let me take her place. Like, Emile is ready to die for her. And she's thinking, wait, so it can't just be Emile. There has to be more women out there. Guillotine comes down, she wakes up, and she's like, okay, I made Emile fall for me, but my execution remains inevitable. Sorceress wasn't lying to me, was she? She said that there were women whose karma was entangled with me, not just a woman. There's got to be other women out there aiming for my life. And now I got to do whatever I can to not meet that fate. I'm going to entice all the women. I'm going to hold them in the palm of my hand and build a harem. And she does so. She starts basically wining and dining all the women that are around her and getting them into her Yuri Harem. But no matter how many times she does this, she keeps finding herself at the guillotine. She even mentions that she has died in return 21 times so far. No matter what she does to change her fate, She just keeps meeting the chopping block, even when she's starting to build her harem. Eventually, we get to a point where she does it. She survives. We get to the date where she's supposed to be executed. She doesn't get executed. She doesn't find herself at the guillotine. She's like, I did it. I survived. And then that's when a childhood friend shows up and decides to take the princess on a cart ride. Basically, they're going to go to a party. And the princess is so excited for this because she's like, yes, I finally get to celebrate the fact that I'm not dead, that I'm not getting guillotined. And she goes into the wagon with her childhood friend. And her childhood friend eventually kicks her out of the wagon, pulls out her sword, and slices her head off. And then she wakes up a year in the past. And that's when she realizes that, son of a gun, even when I dodged the guillotine, I still can't escape my fate of having my head lopped off. No matter what I do, there's always going to be some woman out there. So now I gotta wine and dine my friend. And that's basically where the series goes. It goes from just her finding a target, wining and dining the target, sleeping with the target, getting the target to join her Yuri Harem, only to realize that there's someone else out there that wants her head. And so she just has to keep doing this over and over and over again until she gets all the women that want her dead into her harem. And that's basically what the series is. Yeah, I thought this was just pretty funny. There are, as you can see from the tags, you can see the erotica tag. So there are erotic scenes in here. There's also the SV tag in there, which I don't really recall. Because, there's no, forced relations as far as I remember. Maybe it's because she's forcing herself to create a lesbian harem when she's not a lesbian. But she seems to enjoy it later on. Like, she's very hesitant at first, but eventually, well, I don't even know if I want to say enjoying it, but she seems to have no problem with it. I don't know why the SV tag is there. But yeah, this is basically just a selfish, domineering princess who's very self-centered, very mean, just constantly whatever I can do to please myself. Keeps finding herself at the guillotine, and she finds out that no matter what she does, she can't escape her fate, and that it's because there is always some woman out there that wants her dead. And the only way to stop that is to stop every woman that wants her dead. And the only way to do that is by romancing them and bringing them into a harem. There's the death-defying princess creates a Yuri harem to survive. A survival Yuri fantasy about a princess who defies death. I hope you enjoyed. I'll leave a link down in the description below where you can read it for yourself. And I hope to see you next time. Take care. Later. Thank you for watching my video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you didn't, I still want to thank you for watching it this far, and I hope the next one is more to your liking. With that said, thank you once again, and I hope you guys and gals have a good one. Later.